Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next event here at the Thunderbolt Global Network community. I'm your host, Alik Talipov, and we are continuing our series of events dedicated to different types of growth engines. I would say we have already done a couple of episodes about innovation, about science, and today we are going to talk about augmented reality, about virtual reality, about different types of other immersive experiences together with our today's guests. And I'm going to quickly invite them without further ado. Give me a second. So, yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Hey,
Alec.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you
Yo.
for being with us today. And I think we'll be waiting for uh, we will be waiting for one more panelist just in a couple of seconds. He says that his browser is not supporting StreamYard for some reason, but I hope that will be okay. But before we go to the questions that I have prepared, I would like to ask you to briefly introduce yourself. Maybe let's start one by one. Please, Robin.
yeah. Hi everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm Robin. I'm based out of Munich. I joined EPAM a little bit over a year ago, and there I'm overseeing a number of projects in the immersive space around Web3. And yeah, very excited to be here today.
Thank you.
Handing it off. Oh,
Please.
sorry. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, please, Sasha.
Well, I'm Sasha Pitkevich. I'm creator and leader of Thunderbolt Innovation Network. And so I'm so kind of host here, but I also have a point to say I spent quite some time in innovation domain doing innovations. I'm doing a lot of blockchain technologies, but also I had quite some intersections with the AR VR because of the metaverse integrations and also because of my general interest of the AR/VR technology. And also, several years ago, while working at Accenture and working at the Liquid Studio of Accenture, we also had a lot of AR/VR ideas, a lot of AR/VR experiments. So yeah, this is me, the leader of the community, and also thank you guys to be here. Yeah, being here.
Thanks, Sasha. Please, Guido.
Yes, thank you, Alec. Guido Hamers, one of the co-founders of Warp VR, and that has been 7 years in. Warp VR is all about using 360 video VR and the narrative structure scenario based to provide training scenarios. And I kind of stumbled upon, let's say, that idea because I spent almost 10 years at KLM before, so the airline, the Dutch airline. And it was kind of the place where I saw the challenge of situational training for cognitive skills, and how do you train people in let's say real life situations, but at scale and in an operational environment like an airline is. And that's how Warp VR came about. So for the past 7 years, I've been in that, let's say, immersive, real life immersive training space. And thank you again for having me. Excited to have the conversation.
Thank you. And Mikhail, could you please briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, guys. I'm Mikhail Glazurin. I am located in San Francisco Bay Area, and I am head of immersive practice in EPAM and part of gaming solution. So I started working in immersive space about 7 years ago when I joined EPAM. And we did a lot of projects, more than 100 projects with very different type of clients. No games, unfortunately, but all of it related to trading, training, collaboration, and other areas. So we'll talk that about. And before that, I was head of Electronic Arts Studio, where we produced a few mobile games like a Tetris, Scrabble, on mobile platforms, part of Real Racing 6. So have quite a experience in gaming as well. Yeah, nice to meet you guys, and yeah, very excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I actually liked how Guido and Mikhail briefly explained touched the moment when they joined the topic, the industry of AR/VR. And Robin and Sasha, could you please also quickly share with us what was the time that brought you to the industry of AR/VR? I mean, I know that you have a pretty broad experience of working with metaverses and stuff. And could you please, just make a quick intro about the moment when you what brought you to the industry?
Mine was very pragmatical. Somewhere around 10 years ago, I was working for Shell, and Shell has quite some need in safety trainings because that's one of the priorities of the company. And also, I was working on the part of Shell who's doing the capital projects. And there is also a lot of opportunities for VR, which we explored, like making workers familiar with the site and letting them know what is it, because the physical sites, they're like in Nigeria or in Sakhalin or somewhere else, and prior to dumping people there, that's necessary to teach them what is there. And also, like, what amazed me, that was the part of the safety training, because well, there are a lot of aspects, like in oil and gas industry, there are a lot of aspects of the safety, and the nature of the workers who are working there, they normally, like the field workers, they normally don't have a high education, and you need to teach them the very important life-saving things. And the Shell had historically industry theater, so where the people play to explain other people what is good and what is not. And Shell was actively exploring the usage of augmented reality and virtual reality for teaching people not only how to work somewhere, but what are the good behaviors and what are not. And that was my first encounter, and it's happened around 10 years ago.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I got into the space about 7 or 8 years ago when I was working on some VR projects. I had an agency back then, and then figured out that it was a lot of excitement, a lot of hype, some people would say. And then after that, I then looked into AR. Then I founded my own startup in that space. We did interactive, immersive experiences for video content and entertainment. So basically thinking about how would the media experience change once AR is more ubiquitous. And then I've done that for 6 years. So I've been also with started when there was like many of my colleagues here, when there wasn't like Unity working out of the box or ARKit, all those things weren't there. So it was a lot of kind of really hands down engineering, and that's how I got into the AR space.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, guys. And
Alec,
before we go further,
also
yes?
do want to add that I use, like, presenting on various innovation days. I actually used to use AR technology explaining the nature of blockchain. And it was really fun to be on the conferences where there are like the screens projected you, and when you're speaking about the blocks, being chained to blocks, and those blocks are literally flying over your head. That was great fun, and this was also like about like 10 years ago. That was already possible at that moment. It was pretty difficult to create that. So it's costed quite some time of dragging that in Unity. And I had, this nice positioned mat where, because it needs to know where I am. At the end, that was pretty effective. Like, we wanted a wow effect, and it was achieved every time.
Okay, yeah, that sounds very interesting. I hope we will touch these things further during our panel. And before we go further, I'd like to remind our audience to leave your questions somewhere in the live chats, wherever you are watching this. We will go through all the questions at the end, by the end of our today's session. And speaking about our today's topics, I created some directions of what is going to be discussed today, and we will be going through the topics of applicability of AR/VR, about the trends, about the problems, about different types of business opportunities, about limitations and stuff, and make some outlook on the future and visionary things. And let's start with the applicability across industries. So, do you guys what do you guys think? What industries are more applicable for AR VR? Just name a few.
Which industries are not? Maybe that's the.
Oh, yeah, maybe you can do it that way.
Yeah, I could start maybe. So I have pretty pragmatic approach since we work with literally hundreds of clients. I see just a few. So if you know, let's start with something differently. So that's hype is ER. VR started like 7, maybe 8 years ago, where like a hype cycle where everybody say, okay, VR is the future. We have a Oculus Quest. That time it was HTC Vive. Okay, everything will be there. Everybody will utilize VR and VR immediately, maybe in a few years. That's not happened. Then everybody said that's okay. AR VR is a shit. It will not fly. Now it's getting back. So now people start understanding how to use it in the right way. It's like a Warp VR. I love the technology, for example. And I think that last 2 years, I would say this way, there is like a very specific conversation with our clients where they could apply AR and VR with a kind of return of investment. So for me, the first is like a training and education, because putting a person or man into the situation that it's rare in the real world or dangerous, it's quite expensive in real life. So to train firefighter, for example, you need to they actually creating some kind of fires. They do the training. So doing that in VR, it's much simpler and cheaper. This is the main driver. The same way as introduction of Vision Pro actually revolutionized healthcare, because now the surgeons start using Apple Vision Pro. It's not fancy stuff. It's not QC anymore. It's actual technology. Start using it to supply information during the surgery operations, not even for training. So the third one, I think, is automotive. They are long-time proponent of VR and VR. They use VR on daily basis for the design and collaboration. They try to use ER for the repair and maintenance with some success, but at least they are proponent. They understand why they need it. And the fourth one, I think it's like heavy manufacturer guys. It's like Boeing, Airbus. They also long time proponent of ER VR because they use it for the both creating their like aircraft and machinery, but they use it for the diagnostics, repairs, and maintenance, because step-by-step instruction, you could just have a very simple Google Glass or something like that, and you see all of the instructions, so you could reduce dramatically the number of errors. So for me, it's like these 4 industries. I took aside like media and entertainment, so gaming and
You left it for us, yes.
Yeah, I love it, but what we see that because of like a lack of mass adoption, the big like a driver for the actual implementation.
Here I not agree.
Yeah, where is like enterprise?
It depends on the areas of the world, because I'm in China. Live stream selling, guys, all this try on watches, rings, dresses, TikTok, in WeChat. This one is like now every girl like going to MTR in Hong Kong, and by the way, I'm in Hong Kong. There are so many girls who are looking at their mobile phones and literally trying outfits.
Yes.
Being in an MTR. Like when we were speaking about the mass adoption, I was like, preparing to this talk, I was thinking, is it really mass adoption? And today, going from the office to home, because I'm now at home, because it's almost night here, I've seen at least 5 girls in one MTR wagon who were literally looking at herself, trying the jacket, trying a ring, trying shoes, basically virtually. And this live stream selling is definitely getting hot in Asia. It's like, appeared to be like really popular. I cannot say like, well, even Taobao now is implementing that. I cannot say that I use it myself because still sometimes look weird. And also I'm not that frequently buying something which I need to try on. But that's definitely retail companies are using that more and more, especially after COVID, where a lot of shops were closed. Now all these try that at home virtually and then buy it appear to be the trend for me.
Yeah. And to me, this also signals that the question is maybe a little bit too broad, right? Because we're using AR and VR, and we're using it for business. And is it then for internal, or is it for consumer? Is it B2B, B2C? So, and I think that also was one thing I found myself doing. So 7 years ago, the kind of whole concept of VR training was relatively small. There were a couple of players, not too much happening. It was kind of you could kind of get a grasp of it. Nowadays, the whole term, even VR training, in my opinion, is already too broad, right? So that's why I'm kind of pushing for, at least for what we're doing, more in what I started to call kind of the real life immersive training. And real life meaning for us 360 video, right? So and another way for me to answer that question would not even be industry kind of wise, but more use case wise. So we let's say see and focus now predominantly on two use cases. One is more what we calling customer facing, and this is all for us. It's all about situations, right? So Miguel, you already spoke to situations or locations that are difficult to enter. For us, the additional part of it is more the what we call human interactions, right? So person to person interactions. So everywhere you would kind of think, for let's say from a training perspective, I would like to have actors or role playing as part of the training. But then when you look at that, it's super expensive. It's not scalable. It's not repeatable, right? So it's in a classroom, all that. So that is a kind of for us the lens almost at which we're looking. And then it's across industries, right? So we're looking at hospitality. How do you deal with difficult customers? Same for aviation, same for retail, same for, and the list goes on. But also healthcare. Nurses, how do you deal with difficult conversations you have to discuss with your with patients or with the family of patients? Again, but that's of course I'm kind of speaking for what we're doing, but just to maybe make the point, asking such a broad question is a tricky thing to do nowadays, in my opinion.
Yeah, and just adding to that, I think everything was already said, but in the end, if you look at the way we look at the technology, we have this called AR VR. I think AR VR as a growth engine, right? So I think even like the terminologies, right? Some mix it also in a little pinch of metaverse, of course, right? So I think there's a lot of different understanding and even like the question, because I think we are very sometimes we tend to have a technology goggles on and evaluate everything from the technology perspective, but in the end it really comes down to the consumer, right? Because like if you would probably like ask someone on the street, like, hey, like the girls that Sasha was referring to, it, hey, do you think AR and VR is big? They're probably like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm using this every day to do some virtual try-ons and see, look, my wrist watch that bought, right? So I think it's really always the context and where you see it. And of course, I think all of us, we are very kind of enterprise driven and enterprise focused, but there is this whole other world, I think, which sometimes we forget about.
For sure.
Well, strangely enough, I do believe that if we will ask those girls, they wouldn't know that it's augmented reality. They will just say that's a nice feature. Yeah. And I think
exactly.
we forgot about one very important area, that's the maintenance and support. I mean, all the maintenance, all the complex sites with augmented reality, that's like I've seen so many companies who were looking to that because it's such a costly area, where it's even efficient to work on those augmented reality pieces, because how much they're losing if something is done wrong, or the transfer of information if it can be done on site nicely. Because again, to
Yeah.
create the complete virtual reality for the big, for example, oil platform would be too much cost. But to add the marks, and to add like the marks and some extra information on the most complex pieces, for example on the valves or something, it will really help. And I know that there are a lot of work being done here, because that brings the value even if you start small.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you share that, Sasha, because that also brings me to the thought that it's both, at least in my opinion. So let's say I've seen this case with let's say a big chip manufacturer.
Mhm.
I won't name a name, but we can guess who that is from the Netherlands. But so we talked about it. So yes, AR in the sense that when a machine breaks down somewhere around the world, a technician will be flown in and they can be augmented with help on how to fix the damn thing, right? Because
Yep.
it is losing money, and a lot of money by the second or minute
Yep.
or whatever, right? So it's
Exactly.
just and one thing I found interesting, because when I was talking to the I think the kind of the L&D or learning and training there, and they said, okay, we actually we went with somebody who was fixing the machine, and they were aided by AR. But what also happened is that they were actually in an almost hostile situation, because the client was just so pressed or under pressure, where they were like, okay, just fix the machine, it doesn't matter, boom, boom, boom. So they were and that's our part, right? Because you can have that augmented and be on the procedure and kind of on the bits and bolts and whatever, the technical part. But when somebody is breathing down your neck and screaming and calling your names, and you don't de-escalate that part, then still it doesn't matter that you're augmented, because you're in a stressful situation. So, and for me, there was a very insightful kind of anecdote where he said, okay, so yes, you're augmented. And at the same time, the cognitive skills for a technical person to actually deal with such a situation is also a use case for, well, in this case, VR.
It's true. It's true. And I've seen
Yeah,
the approaches. Then they also had the guide, like not only the augmented technology pieces, but also like the video projected with the guy who is just like with the calm voice is telling you what to do. And it's like, holy shit, they can put the text. And then why not a text? Like, why they have this video of this like stupid guy? And they explained for me that's exactly for the reason to calm down the technician, like
Yeah,
to have him feeling that he's not alone.
that's right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
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 Okay.
And
Yeah.
back to the conversation about that ER, VR, and inflation of the terms. I think this is why Apple introduced the new term, like a special computing, because they want to separate the conversation that when we talk to the clients all the time, and even when we prepare like a some kind of blog post, when you say ER, it could be very different stuff like a mobile ER, TikTok, Park, virtual try-on, but it may be like a serious ER, like a computer vision, AI technologies. So they call special computing because it's less marketing term. I think it's more like a focus of the device. It's a device that allows you to do actually augment your space with the digital stuff. So it's not. So they try to separate from TikTok and mass market ER terms.
Yeah, very true. And we're very happy that spatial video is back back
Yeah,
in
it's good.
on stage, because for us that's that's 360 video. So that was very helpful on our part.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, and thank you, Mikhail, for bringing the topic of what has been invented recently. And coming back to the beginning, when Sasha said that she has been, she was very surprised when she has been presenting the blockchain, the topic of blockchain somewhere in the flying blocks or so. So yeah, could you please quickly say us what has been invented since then? I mean, if we had such technologies 10 years ago, what do we even have right now?
I can mention just like, if you started to speak about blockchain, I will bring like to the guys some much more experience because like my daily work is not AR/VR. But recently Dolce and Gabbana sent for quite some amount of money NFTs which bring AR pieces of clothing. So you get an NFT in your wallet and then the people look into you using a special device like a Metro, thinking or seeing you wearing the damn Dolce Gabbana outfit. Like they were like very, I would say, very modern outfits. But you can find pictures in Google. Just Google for AR VR NFT Dolce and Gabbana, and you will see that looks quite impressive. And that's definitely new. That's definitely of like last half a year.
Are we
Passing that
talking
to the
about
more
like a last
serious
year?
guys. Yeah.
So as for, I think I mentioned earlier, like a lot of pieces of the ecosystem have evolved enormously, right? So for example, when we did with my startup 7 years ago, a project with a German broadcaster, they wanted to have like an AR experience while you watch TV, their TV show. The entire week you could just you download an app, you point it towards the TV while the show is running on TV, and then we would give you like an enhanced AR experience. So kind of, bringing together the first and the second screen. And back then there was no like AR kit. It was before AR kit. There wasn't like the possibility to stream asset bundles from the cloud. So, the client was so excited that they wanted to have more and more episodes. So we had to bake in all the content into one app. So in the end, the app was like 1.6 gigabyte. And this was, again, 7 years ago, storage was expensive. You didn't have like all, like 256 or 512 gigabytes of storage on your phone. So I think now a lot of that friction has been removed. And this is why I think also, picking up on what Mikhail said earlier, we're seeing now this kind of, what is it? Slide of delightment, I think is a term from the hype cycle. So it's really now picking up because a lot of those challenges have been solved. We now have edge compute, we have 5G. So all of those, or a lot of those question marks have been solved. But yeah, it's still, I think, I think in 10 years, if we meet again, it's going to be another nice conversation. So like, hey, the last 10 years have been really crazy.
Yeah, for
So
me,
let
it's
me, let
like.
me ask you a
Oh, go ahead.
question, guys, because I'm curious how you look at it. So, do you see in that sense of the, let's say, the hype cycle? Do you, when you talk to clients and customers, do you also see a more realistic demand, where maybe 3-4 years ago it was, metaverse front, right, and center, and everything has to be built and rebuilt, and let's say the bigger the better, as to put it that way. And now, at least that's some sounds I hear, but I'm curious on your thoughts. It's more, well, let's say realistic and more use case based, smaller but more targeted. Is that something you see happening?
I see very different. So this is so for us before it was like a lot of very small projects that was focused on exploration. What if?
Yeah.
What art of possible? But
Yeah.
everybody look at it. It's like Horizon 3 stuff. It's like we are trying to understand the technology to not be at the like last car in the train. Now, like what I see the last, I would say 2, maybe 3 years, for me, it was 3 points, revolutionary points happened. One point when Oculus introduced Oculus Quest. Now it's a Meta Quest 3.
Yes.
And it's open eyes for the everybody in enterprises that, okay, now training is possible. They literally could buy the hardware for $300. They could
Yeah.
send it to the clients or to the employee to train, then get it back. So it's like a leasing. Yeah, they start using it like in thousands. So it's not like a 10 device, it's thousands device. At least what I see in healthcare, even like a hotels. I don't know if you created experience for the Hilton, but they bragged a few years ago that they train employee with that.
Yeah.
The second point for me, it's using computer vision and AI on the edge device. That's actually, we are creator of one of the world famous virtual try-on platform for the beauty brands, like 26 beauty brands. And without AI and computer vision, it's just not possible. I still see that a lot of clients, like a luxury clients, they don't want to go to the virtual try-on like Adidas, Nike, because the quality of computer vision is not there and branding. But it's getting there. Like even in like a few years, it will be there. Like with new Unreal Engine and power mobile devices. And the third point for me, it's a key current point is Vision Pro, because for me, it's like a Quest is for the training and for the games, but Vision Pro, it's like a new type of computing device. It's like that what's happening after iPad. So you have like a system, you have an Apple Watch to bring with you, you have a computer to do like productivity stuff. Then you have an iPad on the go, and this is like a Vision Pro. It's allow you to step into the display. I would say this way. So it's like extend your possibility. So for me, it's like a 3 cornerstones: appearance of Meta Quest, then generative AI and computer vision. It's a separate stuff, but for me, I work on both. And the third one is Vision Pro. That's open eyes for our client that this is now possible, because before it was a HoloLens, a fancy device, everybody love it, but nobody use it. The same is Magic Leap 2 that did a not substantial, but really good progress in the HoloLens, but what was not there. And now Vision Pro, I have real engineers who work on my projects, like the big commercial projects for the training in ER, who literally work few hours every day in these Vision Pros. So that's change in modality or reality, because you cannot work even in like a Vario stuff. That's pretty good, but like a 15 minutes and you are getting hit, it's pretty hard for you to wear. So it's useful for the very short session. This Vision Pro, you could work in it, and this is for me, it's very, very critical change from what we saw before.
Productivity. Yeah, I see that.
And now we have a actual few big commercial projects, multi-million projects that's focused on the Vision Pro. Before the Vision Pro, it was just not possible, because it was like a smaller, very targeted type of education. And now people start thinking, okay, this is a platform that we can build. It's like the same situation as we see with the iPhone for me. So there were like a lot of like a Nokia phones, all of these with capacity, not with capacity, but resistive touch screens. It's everybody use them. But then when iPhone appears, it was a change of modality and how users start using their actual phones. The same here.
True.
We
And I
also
think-
see that in the money in the industry, because I think that's reported that revenue from AR, VR, I think across the globe is already 40 billion this year, which is, I think, double than it was the previous year. Yeah.
The to also pick on what was said earlier, the opportunity that shows up now is because obviously the Vision Pro is a kind of a adult device, let's put it that way, right? It's really, so if you're really considering implementing that or incorporating that, then you have to do it right. It's not because the platform is so closed, it's not the kind of, oh, let's do something cool and then we let it go, right? It's something where people invest a lot of time and thinking into really building an enterprise grade solution. And this is what where we come in and where we are really good at is really thinking this thing end to end. So I agree with what Michael said. It was very early to say, oh, let's do a small kind of cool app on Meta Quest or even mobile AR, right? It was standalone. It wasn't integrated into the client's infrastructure, into their security, requirements, etc. It was kind of running by itself, and that is also then led to not real adoption because it was nobody really cared enough about it. I think now there's much more commitment into making it right. So if you want to do it, you make it right, meaning that you have to also invest a little bit more upfront because you need to make sure that it's compliant, that it meets all your security standards, etc. But then you can benefit from that on the long trail. So right now we're working on a couple of projects in the life science space, in the health space, where I think there is a really good movement towards a 2 to 5 year long thinking rather than, oh, well, what are we going to do next, guys? It's really something that is more driven by C-levels and on a strategic level in my experience.
Okay, and it seems like when we talk about the technology itself, that the technology is almost ready to use. I mean, we have such great products. We know how to build some difficult things in the augmented reality, but we are not still using it massively. So let's talk about the things that are still holding us back. What limitations do we have that restrain the humanity from mass adoption of VR technologies? I mean, why doesn't anyone has a Vision Pro or Oculus device in their house still?
Well, a lot of people have the devices. The problem is that the hardware still has a huge room for improvement. Well, I have Oculus at home, but after the hour of using that, my neck is aching like hell. Probably for like a strong guys, they can use that for like long time, but I'm falling sick and I prefer that to be much lighter. And also the area of the sight of the view field in the device can be much broader, and also if we're speaking about the virtual reality, then we will hit the situation of, well, then I want to see myself, and or at least the hands and feet, and then now all the guys would laugh, yeah, because like all the avatar stuff is lacking, and the quality of the video. I mean, if we are watching the movies in movie theater, and that would compare like with the recent, Spider-Man, then we will understand that there is a significant room for improvement.
True.
I would say that's
which way is
ahead.
why we use 360 video. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's a big jump forward from the Meta Quest 2 and Meta Quest 3. I don't know if you tried Quest 3. The same is Vision Pro. The quality of the displays are dramatically improved for the last year. It's literally last year. It's not 2 years ago. And even for Vision Pro, it's not Retina yet. But you could easily read like a work with emails. You could easily watch films there. I think it's one of the technology limitation. So I agree with you that the devices are big and heavy. That's one of that. That is critical. But the second limitation for me is a lack of the standard interfaces and standard technologies inside. It's like a library. So you have on macOS, you have a design language. On iPad, you have a very specific design language. When you run application, it's run on iPad or iOS, or it's run on Android or Google. Google has their own design library. So it's pretty simple. For the VR and AR devices, there is no interfaces. For me, it's one of the limitations. It's on the software side. And this actually what Apple tried to solve on their Vision Pro.
Yeah. No, I maybe to connect to that, I think From, let's say, more a learning and training perspective, what is missing is the well, basically the thing what the learning management system has done for other pieces of content and bringing it together, right? So that the user experience is one, right? So there's one place where you log in, there's one place where you go. There can be kind of a path designed for you to go through the content, and then well, and the same, I think, well, should happen or will happen also, let's say, for on the headset, right, where you just log in, you're there, and you have just everything available, and you don't have to switch and swap. And because people don't do that, right, they're inherently lazy, and they get lost, and that's not going to happen. So for me, that's a big impediment. One of the reasons that we said, okay, let's integrate with learning management systems, right? So you can actually make that whole VR immersive part of the learning path. It's still not super ideal, but we found a way to minimize the friction, right? So you're in your LMS, you click, you see a 6-digit code, you go to your headset, you put it in, you see your scenario, you play it, and then the data is sent back to. So that's somewhat of a frictionless, but at least with minimal friction kind of flow. And I think that needs to happen for a lot of applications in that sense as well. And in the end, I believe that will be also in the headset, right? So where you're just there, you have kind of your own corporate environment where you know your way, and things are designed for you from some department in the enterprise, and it's everybody kind of knows where to go and how to do that.
And I would say that's the question about the technical limitation of platforms also very broad, as we discussed in the start, because I work with both mobile AR, and there are very different set of technology limitations there. It's more about the computer vision and AI and cost of content. It's because creating content in 2D, it's one story. Creating content in 3D is a very different story. It's like a 10 times more cost consuming, and it's a very different story. The same is computer vision.
Yeah.
And if you talk about the devices, I mean glasses, I call it more like a professional device, or like a not mobile. Yeah, it's a weight, price, and lack of interfaces and big platforms. There's no standards.
Mikhail, and can you elaborate a little bit about the maturity of the software to create the content? Because I don't know the details, but it was always the challenge. And how fast is improving, where it is now? Because well, previously, to create something really big and beautiful will cost you a fortune in terms of money and time.
Yeah, there's still you still have these limitations, but this is why all of that tool company start working towards generative AI. So it's like, if you look at, it's a, how to explain in a short way. So I think that actually Gen AI will allow us to create content faster, and it will be much shorter way to the market than to optimize tools for the creators like Maya or Blender or everything else. It's like what's happening with OpenAI, and we all think that AI will help with some routine stuff, and it will be first. But in fact, it's an opposite way. AI help us with the creative tasks. The same is here. So if I have a tool that allows me to generate some 3D content, and there are a lot of startups who doing that. This is like a Muse platform from Unity that we helped create them. There is other platforms. Epic Games is looking for the creativity tools for the user generation content, and like WFM. So lack of these tools to create this content in fast way, it's a main showstopper there. And this is why I believe that's like a Vision Pro again I admire them. Like it's Apple position it's not as a VR device. It positions as a device like extension of your ecosystem. You just work there. So currently I use it for the working with my Mac. I use a keyboard from my Mac, but I use it as a huge display. But even today, I have a few applications there that use it like a 3D. Like our system that we're building for like a few customers, they use the components of 2D and 3D. But lack of tools to create the 3D models and fast, for me, it's a key showstopper. Not showstopper, but a key friction there. And this is why I love this technology. You capture 360 video, you add some interface on top. So it's like a first step there. Next step will be maybe whether you will use a generative AI to generate that videos, like what we see with the OpenAI Sora, right?
No, but I agree, and let's say that Gen AI, we look at it because potentially that is definitely interesting in generating, let's say, the scenes you need for your scenario. So in our case, and in a way we are one of our, let's say, missions is to democratize VR, right? So that whole process of creation, that's why we have the platform. That's why our customers use the platform to create their own scenarios, right? So they just do that internally, sometimes with the help of others, but they can have a very high level of control. So for us, let's say using AI is now much more on the design and the creation side. How do you help them to create scenarios that are of high quality, that have a great narrative, that put people in those situations you need them to be in? Because that's kind of a design skill, which, well, is hard, right? So it took us years to kind of be at a certain level. And you want to push that knowledge and you want to help them to get to that level of quality as soon as possible. So that's where kind of our push now for AI is to help create our creators, our clients to make better scenarios. And then, well, hopefully, or later on, it will kind of the generating 360 videos or spatial videos will be also in the stars, but so far it will take a while.
I think the opportunity here is really that we're already seeing incremental improvements in each of those steps, right? So imagine you have maybe a creative guy or a person who is maybe more on the research side, knows how the methodology, but isn't able to express it creatively. So they can use a prompt to create at least an idea of how to brief, for example, then a designer or a coder or whatever. So I think we're already seeing these kind of improvements, and then again, I think the development in the last 12-18 months alone have been so mind-boggling that in a couple of years from now, or even maybe in a year from now, we're going to be like, hey, do you remember where you were talking to this NPC and you had to wait until it would respond? And it's like, did we have too much time back then, or why did we do that? But it is just the state of the art right now. And even if not the state of the art, I think the state of the art is much further along already, but it is just the way we interact with it. And I think I personally, because I've been in a startup in XR, which means that you have to fight against a lot of concerns, a lot of criticism, a lot of we've done that, I don't believe in that kind of stuff, right? Which is tiring. But then you also know that those people also just don't understand or don't have the mindset or the vision of where it can go, right? It's the same people who would look at some kind of AI, like conversational AI, like a year ago, 2 months ago, and we're like, yeah, but who wants to wait like this, when you're calling into a call center and it doesn't understand you? Or even if you remember this viral Will Smith video eating spaghetti, you've probably all seen that, right? Generated by AI. People were laughing about it and saying, dismissing it, right? And I think this is the most risky part about it, is dismissing it as, look at this, it cannot do anything. But then you wouldn't be able to even comprehend what 12 months later is already possible, right?
That's very true, Robin. The question was also, okay, so why isn't it picking up? At the same time, I think it also is, let's say, from not the technology, but more the business impact, right? So what is the actual business benefit of doing it, right? So connecting it to real business pain and letting people to understand why this helps and how it accelerates, how it's faster, how it's better, how people are better prepared, or whatever the reason is. And I think that's still somehow unknown territory to at least some levels of the executive suite, right? Where they just don't have the experience, when indeed they're kind of dismissive or thinking, oh geez, how the hell. But if we cannot make the connection to, okay, but this is how it's gonna add to your bottom line, or this is how we can minimize your risk in your business, in, I don't know, in preventing claims because one of your employees or a couple said the wrong thing in their consult, or whatever the use case is. And somehow I think that still is, well, difficult, apparently, for people to understand or to convey the message, right? It's kind of the receiver and then the messenger.
I probably can add a little bit here because I do believe that the message itself and the use cases are already reaching people. The problem here is with any innovation, and what we will hit that in any innovation space,
Yes.
the associated process change, which all those business executives realize pretty well,
Yeah.
is mostly killing the business case. It's basically, it's clear what benefits technology will bring. It's even clear how to do so. But then look how much we need to change in our daily work and how ineffectively we're doing that in terms of money and time. So that's better to incubate that and stay that in innovation department because of the process change. I will need to teach all the surgeons we like 50 years they were teaching one way. And then we need to teach all the teachers to teach another way. And we need to reorganize everything. And I mean, all the maintenance and support. I mean, they used to use the paper books. And now using the device and look into this, I will be scared. And again, they needs to be taught properly. There needs to be new procedures. And this all is like it's applicable for all the innovations.
Oh,
The process
very
change
true.
is keyed in. And I started to think that, well, basically to speed up all the innovations, we need to think of how to speed up the process change. Like it's a management consulting thing. How to bring all types of the innovations faster in, because like any industry will benefit from that.
Yes, the innovation dilemma.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, and probably I think it's very important as a last thing to talk about the parts or areas in the AR and VR industry that are less explored, I would say. What business opportunities or maybe what areas and niches in AR VR are less explored right now, in your opinion?
So maybe
Tough.
I can start. So to me, as I think it was said earlier. So there's this content problem, right? So there needs to be more content, there needs to be more choice, and therefore people can pick of it. So I think, and we have a couple of clients / partners who actually develop their own VR scenarios and they sell them, right? So they basically put them in the store, like you would do your own app in the app store, and start selling them, right? So we have soft skills. It's kind of off the shelf content, and I think that is in that sense an untapped market for a lot of people who have, even individuals who have certain skills, In this case, there were two guys who trained all over the world, certain sales training, so soft skills training. And then when COVID hit, they were sitting at home and said, okay, what the hell are we going to do? We just met. They started creating scenarios, soft skill scenarios off the shelf, and they're now selling those, right? So, but it's kind of demand supply. But I think that's very much an untapped market in the sense that there needs to be more content one way or another. And if it's 3D or whatever, quality content. And for me, that's where a big gap lies and opportunity lies for people who say, okay, I now train, I now sell myself, not sell myself, maybe that's not the right word. I now it's an hourly rate, but let me invest in creating some type of content and I will sell that expertise in that modality. And I think that's an exciting opportunity.
Okay.
For me,
And
the
Robin,
less explored area, they speak a lot about that. They do much less about the social interaction in virtual reality. I mean, there are so many projections about that we are going to live there, and look how poor it is now. I couldn't imagine that in my life I'm going to live there. And also, I could imagine how my kids will play the game. But the real social interaction. And yeah, I've seen the discussions where actually my elder kid were discussing on the debates about the virtual representatives of the dead people using AI. So where the appearance is created in a virtual reality and AI is fed with the content for basically like a psychology thing to help people who are suffering and missing their relatives who were suddenly dead or something. And they were discussing, is it a good thing or bad thing? And there are a lot of those cases, like these cases where the virtual reality appeared to be the real virtual reality in all those aspects, which are not necessarily good. There are a lot of scary things there. But technology now doesn't allow us to explore that much. And for me, that's this Horizon 3 is this wonderful virtual world which everybody projects we will live, and we are working on that and saying, okay, I can imagine how I tune a machine and even pilot a plane with some help, or at least warming food in a plane, like a stewardess. But how I'm going to live there, that's a far away.
okay. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I second to Guido. Guido. So yeah, I think that's content creation tools and platforms. It's the key, and this is unexplored. So everybody, so it's a lot of startups, but since there is no standard tool there, I believe it's something that should happen pretty fast and pretty soon. And this is still underexplored. Yeah, as I said, Apple tried to do that from the two-dimensional standpoint. There are like a Unity initiatives, Unreal Engine initiatives, but we are not there yet. Yeah, and related to metaverse, maybe metaverse is not thing that we will see in like 10 years, even because people love to collaborate in real life. And when I, for example, watching TV or cinema, I love to watch with my family or friends. I don't want them to be isolated in the helmet. That's one of the problems for me.
Yeah.
For example.
Mikhail, what about integration tools and the conversion tools? Because, well, lack of standards, everything is fragmented. I think there's a huge space there, like to integrate the technology and to be able to convert one content to another form of the content.
For conversion, actually, that's I think we are here. So there is a very good DataSmith package for the Unreal Engine. There is a very good package for the Unity. So there are like a Blender could import almost everything. So for us, at least in EPAM, it's not a problem at all these days. The problem is creating new content, not with converting content and make it fit. I would say that we still want to have something like web technology. I still believe in like a web 3.0, not in metaverse, but in like a set of standards that allow me to run content in 3D. And this is like an OpenXR standards that they are not ready and we could not use them. So for traditional industries, when we create content, I could create an application for the web, I could application for the mobile using like a different technology. But if I have at least HTML5 and a lot of stuff there, so I could create content. But for the not even ER and VR, but about 3D, I don't have this technology ready today.
And to add to that, I think there's again a lot of progress also in the industry, kind of trying to formalize that. There are some standard forums trying to create some kind of standards. There's we're seeing, I think, with the universal screen descriptor as a format that is getting kind of adopted across different platform and players. I think these are the things that take time, but they're happening slowly, but happening finally, I guess. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And I initially thought that this meeting is supposed to be a 1-hour event, but it seems like we are exceeding the timing. So please, my apologies about that. But we have a couple of questions from the live chat. I hope we will be able to make it to answer. On the We Are community platform, we have 3 questions from Gordon Mullen, who asks how do you think brain-computer interfaces like Neuralink will affect the world of VR and AR? They have said the second patient will be for blind sight, restoring vision to a blind patient. Once you have got that, then it's trivial to feed in generated content as well as real-world content.
Yeah, I could start. So I think this is like a fourth point that I'm expecting, because currently even with Vision Pro, it's hard to interact with the VR. Either so if you don't have like a sticks, you have your hands, and even like an idea to use the eye gazing to look at something and tap buttons, it doesn't work quite well. So using like a brain interfaces to interact with the like immersive world, for me it's like real deal. With the help of AI and conversation interfaces, it may be a revolution. I don't know when it happens, but I think it will happen. Yeah, based on what I know.
Okay, and yeah, Gita, do you have something to add?
No. I was just here.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's where
So the next question says, how long before you think humanoid robots powered by AI will displace human service engineers using AR?
Why humanoids? Why question is like, why
Yeah.
the service engineers, why do they have to look like? Well, I think big problem with the question is the humanoid one, because the humanoid robots would not appear anytime really soon, because there are a lot of psychological questions, ethical questions there, and well, we all know Isaac Asimov and all of this. But I mean, there is a huge step in a society which needs to allow all of this, and you all know all this regulation thing. I mean, they cannot now decide on a blockchain money, like on a crypto money, for how many, for 10 years, for more than 10 years. So I think with all of this it would be long. But in terms of the robots doing service work, that's already like we all have like in the port of Rotterdam those self-driving cars which are bringing stuff and doing quite job. We have a lot of robots who are doing that with the help of AI that will only grow and unstoppable. So I believe that for humanoids it would be long, but for robots doing useful work and maintenance and support, it's already here.
Okay, and the last question for today, are any of you using Gaussian plots for generating your environments? Yeah.
Frankly
Okay,
speaking,
then.
no. Yeah, we explore that technology and but yeah, we don't use it. Let's say this way. But this is a powerful technology. I saw that through the like a few years, it will be mature. It's what I expect. That it's like what Google is driving, and there are a lot of progress. And I know that it's replacing that aerial photos for the Google Maps, for example, when they created like a imagery. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and that was the last question for today. We also have a couple of comments and useful links from Gordon, from Alexander in our chat at We Are Community platform where this event is hosted. So please have a look on these comments if you are watching this in a published recording of this of today's panel session. And I think that's it for today. Yeah, we have some food to think about, some directions to look for. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks to everyone who joined our today's live session, and hope to talk to you soon. And that was very useful, at least for me. Please, maybe a couple of last words before we say bye to everyone.
Guys,
Thank
thank
you.
you for really
Yeah,
good
thank you very much.
discussion. That was a pleasure.
Yeah.
True pleasure,
Yeah, it
guys.
was a
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
Looking forward
Okay,
to the
then.
next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.